NFL fans, welcome back to the J All Day Sports Show. In today's episode, we're breaking down the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. We're exactly 6 days away until the Birds kick off. Let's go, Bird Gang. Let's go. All right, so I made an earlier prediction on this game about a month or so ago, and I had the Green Bay Packers winning this game. In today's episode, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to break down the game with some new stuff I learned about each of these teams, and we'll see if the Green Bay Packers are still going to defeat my Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil next Friday. Stick around. Let's get into it. As of recording this video, currently the Philadelphia Eagles are minus 2.5 point favorites over the Green Bay Packers. A couple weeks ago, the line was at 2, so there is some juice coming in on the Philadelphia Eagles. They added Jahad Dotson to play the slot to be paired with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, one of the best trio of wide receivers in the entire NFL. The offensive line is healthy. They are without Jason Kelce, who is in retirement now. Obviously, he will not be the center anymore for the Philadelphia Eagles, but their line is still a top 5 unit in the NFL. The biggest question mark for this Philadelphia Eagles team is the defense, right? They were horrible in the second half last year. These guys were missing tackles, missing assignments. They were horrendous, an absolute abomination. They couldn't figure it out schematically, and the talent there was just not very good. James Bradbury was one of the worst cornerbacks in the entire NFL. So what did the Philadelphia Eagles do? They went out in the draft and they got two of the best defensive backs in the entire draft, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. We haven't seen a lot of Cooper DeJean this preseason because he was dealing with that hamstring injury, but Quinyon Mitchell has been as advertised, right? A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have both said nothing but glowing things about the young cornerback, and getting to go up against these guys every single day in practice is only going to make him better and better. As of right now, it looks like Isaiah Rodgers and Slay will be the outside corners, and Quinyon Mitchell will be in the slot. And I'm sure as the season goes along, Cooper DeJean will be sprinkled into that mix. One of my biggest concerns for this Eagles team is the linebackers, right? So we're going to have to see how that plays out as the season goes along. I think the front seven should be okay, minus the linebacker situation. On the flip side, the Green Bay Packers boast one of the most exciting young offenses in the entire NFL. The only thing that really concerns me about this offense is the interior offensive line, right? Can they hold up against guys like Jalen Carter, right? We will find out on Friday in Brazil, because if they can't block Jalen Carter, it's going to be a long day for Jordan Love. But the wide receivers are great there. We got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Wicks, Reed. I mean, they have great young wide receivers, absolutely incredible young wide receivers. They brought in Josh Jacobs for the Raiders. That's really going to complement this offense. Aaron Jones is no longer with the Green Bay Packers. He's in Minnesota. So Green Bay Packers, let me know in the comments below. How do you feel about Josh Jacobs replacing Jones, who was really, really good the second half of the year? He kind of carried that team on his back for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, right? They made some upgrades on the defense too, bringing in Xavier McKinney from the Giants. That's going to really help bolster that secondary, man. Xavier McKinney is a dog. He's no joke. They paid him a ton of money. They also drafted Javon Bullard to be paired with McKinney in those safety positions, right? And then they drafted one of my favorite, if not my favorite, defensive player in this entire draft in Edgerrin Cooper. He is one of the best linebackers I've seen come out of college in a really long time. We'll see if that skill set in college will translate to the NFL level. They also drafted Jordan Morgan, the offensive lineman. It looks like he's going to start at right guard, but he's dealing with some injuries, right? So that's a brief overview of these two teams. Now I want to go into the depth chart, see who's healthy, who's not healthy, then break down kind of schematically and matchup-wise where I think these teams will have advantages and disadvantages. First, we're going to take a look at this Eagles depth chart. For me, the major concern for this Eagles starting rotation is Mekhi Becton at the right guard position. Cam Jurgens slides over to center to replace Jason Kelce, right? Tyler Steen, they thought he was going to be the starter, but he's been kind of banged up, and Becton just kind of outperformed him. But there's not a lot of depth on the offensive line, guys. Like, look, I mean, do they even really have a backup center? I mean, not really. Is Fred Johnson going to be able to swing to either tackle position? I mean, he's been, pretty much in and out of like football, you know what I mean, up until recently. They don't have a ton of depth at offensive line, and that is very concerning for me as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. But going into this, Dallas Goedert's like the only guy who's really banged up. He's still dealing with that oblique injury. He's not practicing. Didn't practice on Thursday. He's got a week to get healthy, so we'll see how that pans out, right? Because they don't have a ton of depth at the tight end position either, right? Defensively, they're switching to that 3-4 scheme. So they got two inside linebackers, the Will and the Sam. Other linebackers, so the middle linebackers are Bond and Devin White, who came over from Tampa Bay. And then another concern of mine is the depth at the safety position, right? C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship are the starters, but Sidney Brown is out. James Bradbury just went on IR. So they just have Avonte Maddox, who's really a slot cornerback. He's not really a safety. And then Tristan McCollum. They do not have a ton of depth at the safety position. They do have Cooper DeJean, who could be sprinkled in as the season goes along at the safety position, and I think he'll be just fine. He's an athlete. He's a very cerebral player. He's really, really good. So that's my concerns right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they have some depth at corner. Safety position is a little bit concerning, and obviously linebacker has been an issue for the Philadelphia Eagles for years. I'm not thrilled about the additions, what they did in the offseason for the linebacker position. Can a guy like Nolan Smith step up? Can Nakobe Dean step up? Could a guy like Jeremiah Trotter, who actually impressed me a lot in the preseason, he's got to really concentrate on like tackling better, right? Because in college he had a missed tackle rate over 10%. He's got to bring that down if he wants to be a contributor to this defense in the years coming, right? Okay, let's move on to the Green Bay Packers. I mean, offensively, Love, Jacobs, Watson, Dobbs, Reed, amazing. I like Luke Musgraves too at the tight end position. Offensive line, Jordan Morgan's dealing with some injuries. Let's see if they say what it is. They don't really say it on what it is on ESPN. So we'll see. We got a rookie starting at right guard. The interior of that offensive line is a concern for me, especially guys who are going to have to block Jalen Carter. Good luck with that, guys. The defense looks pretty good as well. I like Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, TJ Slate, and Rashawn Gary, another player I really like, Gary. We'll see how Edgerrin Cooper is sprinkled into this linebacker rotation, but Jair Alexander was banged up a lot last year. We'll see if he can get healthy and be that true number one corner that they need him to be. Bullard is also a rookie, and Stokes and Nixon, not the best corners in my opinion, right? So I think there's going to be some mismatches. If they, focus Jair Alexander on A.J. Brown, I think Dotson and Devontae Smith, I think Devontae Smith has a huge game. I'm saying 8 or 9 catches, over 100 yards, and 1 touchdown for Devontae Smith. If you're a fantasy guy, daily fantasy, Devontae Smith is where we target it. All right, now we're going to move on to this kind of depth chart, but with matchups, right? So I really like the matchups for the Philadelphia Eagles on offense, right? I mean, if we got Alexander on Smith or Brown, I think Kellen Moore, the new offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, is going to rotate these guys a lot. He's going to find mismatches, right? So maybe he puts Dotson on the outside to go up against Stokes or Alexander, and he put A.J. Brown in the slot, right? I don't think Alexander's going to travel into the slot to cover Smith or Brown. We'll have to see what choices they make. They don't have a lot of good ones, right? But this offensive line has to block. Right guard and center are a concern for me. We got a new center and a new right guard. The Eagles have the best left tackle and right tackle combo, I think, probably in the NFL. It's definitely top 3. The offensive line as a unit is top 5 in my opinion, but their best defensive player, Rashawn Gary, is going up against probably the best right tackle in the NFL in Lane Johnson. So that's going to be a wash in my opinion. The matchup for me is Mailata and Smith. Mailata was really good at run blocking last year, but the dude gave up, his fair amount of sacks last year, right? 8 penalties, 3 sacks. You know what I mean? This, a lot of penalties from Mailata. Total pressures 45. That's a lot of pressures to give up for a starting left tackle. If we look at Lane Johnson on the right side, only 4 penalties, only 33 pressures allowed. He is an unbelievably talented right tackle, guys. I'm a huge fan of Lane Johnson. Who's not, right? I just think they have some advantages on this offense, right? Can any of these linebackers cover Dallas Goedert and then a rookie at safety? It's going to be tough sledding, right? McKinney's going to have to help out. Probably, Nixon in the slot going up against either Smith or Dotson, right? I think the Eagles have the matchups to exploit this secondary, right? But can they block for Hurts? Hurts does not typically do well against the blitz. So if I'm the Green Bay Packers, I'm blitzing the dog crap out of Hurts and making him beat you with quick throws, right? But the X factor in this is Saquon Barkley, right? Walker and McDuffie cannot cover him out of the backfield, right? I don't think any of these linebackers can drop in the coverage and run with Barkley. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm scheming it up so Barkley's going to get at least 8 to 10 targets out of the backfield. I think they run the ball pretty well too. The Eagles have a very good offensive line for run blocking, right? I think they can really do some damage with run blocking for this team. That's where I see the Eagles' advantages on offense. Now, if we flip it, the concerns for me of the Green Bay Packers is this interior offensive line. You got a rookie at right guard, a center with a 54 PFF grade last year, and Jenkins at 63. Not super great on the interior offensive line for the Green Bay Packers. I'm expecting a lot of quick throws from Jordan Love, not necessarily working his way down the field, especially because the Eagles schematically want to prevent big plays, right? So they want to keep things in front of them. So it'll be really interesting to see where the Green Bay Packers try to attack the Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be with the run, because I think you very well can run on this Philadelphia Eagles team. Their linebackers are not very good. So if I'm the Packers, I'm probably going to attack this defense with Jacobs to start the game. Some play action down the field, because Darius Slay is going to probably man up Christian Watson. Christian Watson's tall. He's got that length, man. 6'5", 208 pounds. Slay's probably going to be manned up on him the whole game. So Isaiah Rodgers and Quinyon Mitchell are probably going to split it between Dobbs and Reed, in my opinion. I think wide receiver-wise, they're really, really talented, the Green Bay Packers, right? And the Eagles, middle of the field, especially with the linebackers, aren't very good. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is just okay. And Reed Blankenship, we'll have to see how he is this year. I think the Green Bay Packers can exploit this Eagles defense by either running the ball, quick throws. It's going to be a coin flip, right? So who do I ultimately think wins this game? I've been going back and forth for weeks on who I think is going to win this showdown in Brazil. I just think the Eagles are really talented on the offensive side of the ball. So are the Green Bay Packers, right? So what defense is going to show up? Both of these defenses have some flaws, right? They're not perfect defenses. The Green Bay Packers defense is probably a little bit better, but I think skill for skill, I'd take Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown over Dobbs and Watson any day of the week. It's not even a question. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles do just enough to win this game. I'm going 24-23. The Philadelphia Eagles get it done late in the game with a late drive with Jalen Hurts and this offense going down the field. People forget how good Saquon Barkley is, man. He's unbelievable. He's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield, and he had all that success running and catching the ball between a terrible offensive line with the Giants. And, being the only weapon, defense is focused on Saquon Barkley. They are not going to be able to do that against the Philadelphia Eagles, man. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson. You are not going to be able to focus and shut down Saquon Barkley. Because if you're going to give one-on-one matchups to Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, you're going to get torched, right? I just don't think the Green Bay Packers have enough on defense to stop all these guys, man. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles and Kellen Moore, I'm doing a lot of three-step drops, maybe 4-step drops, but I'm not doing a lot of 5-step drops. I'm doing a lot of motion, kind of get these guys moving around, get the good matchups. That's why I love the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game 24-23. Yeah, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, but when I look at how these teams match up, I just like how the Eagles match up with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are going to be fine. They're going to be a 10, 11, 12 win team. I just think they lose this week to the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win this showdown in Brazil? I'm going with the Birds. Go Birds! Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace!